Hi there. Welcome to the first in a series of short sessions with regards 2.4 and 3.4 CA Zambia taxation. I think I did, I did a video sometime 2 years ago where I was explaining the differences and similarities in these two papers. Now, these sections are for those who would like to write the CA exams, particularly taxation, but also for those who just want to have some sort of enlightenment towards taxation, because it just doesn't apply to students. Taxation applies to everyone. All right, don't be caught napping. All right, great. Let's go. Let's drill in. Today we'll be focusing on 2.4. If you saw my previous video, you understand that this particular topic is also applicable in 3.4. So let's get to it. 2.4, what's the makeup? It has a weight of 10%, and this is just basically the tax principles and purpose. The next one, which has 50% weight, is tax liabilities on individuals, tax liabilities on businesses, and on companies. Others would ask, what's the difference between a business and a company? A business in this sense, I mean an incorporated business, and then a company is a limited company. That's according to what we're saying. So just that part carries 50 marks in the exam for those who are considering sitting for it. And then administrative procedures for direct taxes, penalties, and things like that are found in this one. Then VAT, a value-added tax, customs and excise, who import vehicles and so on and so forth. VAT, that amount you pay when you get something from ShopRite and the like, that amount, we can explain how it comes about. And then ethical issues, this is very important. Remember, when tenants were required to pay withholding tax on rent, not how much grief it brought to people who disobeyed. And yeah, others and most of the people actually went scot-free. But to those who were apprehended, this is a very interesting topic for all, not just those who are apprehended, because ethics are what we do in the dark and in the open, and we're not supposed to be caught napping. All right, so these are just about to be 5 to 10 minute sessions. So please take note that I am basically summarizing everything. And if you need more data, need more knowledge around taxation or these particular topics, get a BPP manual for CA Zambia, either 2.4 or 3.4 or the diploma in taxation paper. All right. What are the two learning objectives in this particular introduction to the Zambian tax system? We just want to know we just want to describe the principles of taxation generally and to the Zambian context, and then explain its role in the economy, generally in any other economy, and with particular reference to our economy in Zambia. All right. What are the contents of this particular first topic? The Zambian tax system will be looked at in detail. Generally, anyway, with regards to my presentation, then functions of tax in any economy and also the Zambian one. Qualities of a good tax system, and we'll be able to make some rough and quick comments on whether ours is obviously is a good tax system. Then we'll look at the types of taxes and how we classify them. We'll also look at where we get this tax law. How do people come up with tax law? Okay, and then lastly, we'll look at the role that the ZRA or Zambia Revenue Authority and also the Ministry of Finance play in trying to manage this. All right, there we go. So what are the functions of government? Now, this is in relation to taxation. Previously, governments, even without tax, governments were required to protect the citizens. So you notice a king was usually the most powerful or something like that, just so that they could protect the citizens from attacks. I'm not sure if there were too many wars previously, but according to history, that is how it was. So people would have to pay homage. So if a kingdom conquers one, that kingdom would have to be paying royalties or stuff like that, some sort of tax to the colonizers. All right. Take note, I'm not referring to any colonial era here. So that is how it was. So King David conquers the kingdom, and those people in that particular kingdom become part, or they become subjects to King David, and everything that they seemingly did was to be among the most powerful people. And you'd notice even in recent history, that is how it was to be the ultimate power. And so even now, that is the case, that the most powerful army usually rules the world and usually battles around world powers, around security, okay, cyber security and just any other security. But now people have taken it a step further. Governments are not just there for security in terms of physical security or cyber security. They're there to secure people's lives, even in terms of food, in terms of their health, in terms of their knowledge. Okay, so modern governments now need to provide different services to the citizens beyond security services. They now need to provide education, health, infrastructure, and social protection. Now, all these things need to be funded. And taxation is just one of the ways in which these things are funded. But remember, you can't just use tax. There are only so many people who can be taxed. We also need to get loans. You might have to get a loan, but yes, ultimately that loan needs to be paid up by taxation. So it's a chicken and egg discussion there. You need to get a grant. Grants are either conditional or non-conditional. So governments can get grants. They can get gifts. I think most of us have gone to hospitals or church or any other government office and donated whatever we had. Okay, so yes, taxation is also one of them. So people are taxed in a country. And yes, if the government has enough property, it also disposes of some of that property in a process we call privatization. So these are just basically the things I was talking about: loans, grants, taxation, privatization, fines on citizens. So just know that you are driving and cruising, it's part of the budget. All right, pay the fine. When you pay the fine, it goes back in the coffers and people will benefit. Yeah, the government is always on their side. So the government is the people and you definitely benefit. All right. The Zambian tax system, it is just like any other general tax system. The system by the government and the system of taxation impacts on the economy. And so Zambia uses the taxation system to influence economic decisions of people. For example, employment factors, inflation, imports and exports. They will try to influence whether we'll have to be moving in terms of our spending. Right now, there are subsidies that have been removed. So, for example, on fuel, and you notice that people might refrain from thinking about getting cars or driving aimlessly because probably their salaries have not increased, but the fuel cost has increased. And you find that they start taking money to other productive areas that might bring in a bit more economic activity in the country, and like just spending on gas. Then probably they would introduce zero charges on so now they introduced taxation on betting that has been there for some time. Yeah, and so that is just there to try and have influence certain people's livelihood in terms of economic decisions. Should they go in betting or they should go and do other value adding issues. All right. Then it's also used to discourage other things. I think I talked about fuel here. You find that smoking, alcohol prices would go up. Yeah, so that they would probably discourage alcohol. I don't know how that works, but yeah, that's actually how it goes. And you would notice sometimes they will highly charge. Like now, they've been charging they've been charging for all plastics. Okay, that you get. And so people nowadays would say, just give me 2 plastics. It's too much money to pay for this and that, and so on and so forth. Okay, so as government objectives change, taxation policies may be altered accordingly. Previously, we were trying to boost our mining sector. Our government benefits have been boosted in the mining sector. Now they are going in agric. Very soon it will be all about green energy and so on and so forth. So taxation policies will be switching around there. Okay, What types of taxes do we have? We have a number of them, and you can drill in detail to just check what are they. We have a number of them. We've got income tax. This is tax based that is levied on our income. We've got value-added tax. Well, obviously on value addition, and it's borne by the last person, the consumer. Property transfer tax, when you're transferring immovable property from one person to another. I'm not saying you are okay, immovable, it's immovable, so you're not transferring it from one place to another. All right. And then customs and excise, obviously these are merely to do with imports and exports. And then turnover tax, which is basically very similar to income tax. All right. Mineral royalty, for those who have mineral licenses, either mining or just mineral licenses, those pay mineral royalty tax. Okay, those kind of taxes are further classified. Okay, those kind of taxes are classified into direct or indirect. They are also classified as a capital or a revenue tax. Like, for example, capital, I'm sure you can picture that property transfer tax is based on capital expenses. Revenue tax, those are probably turnover and so on. Regressive and progressive, I have a chart which I'll show you in my next slide. And then proportionate tax, this is also going to be shown on my next slide. So progressive tax simply means, if you look at this tax, this chart, the more income you earn, the higher the tax. For example, if you earn 4,000 kwacha, you are only going to pay tax on the excess of 3,300. Right? So if you earn 4,000, if you earn 3,000, you won't pay any tax. Technically, I know NAPSA is usually included here at 5%, but I mean the other tax is not the pension. So it's a tax-free place. All right. When you earn 4,000, or now rates have changed for 2022. So if you earn 5,000, you're only going to pay just about out of 1,000. All right. But if you earn 100,000, you have to pay 35% of about 96,000 kwacha. So 96,000 kwacha times 35% roughly. All right. I know it's about 37 and something, 37.5, but that significantly around an average of 35%. So you can imagine when you get 100,000, you pay 35,000 to the government. Yet a person who gets 5,000 still goes home with significantly what they have made. All right, so this is progressive. Proportionate tax doesn't change regardless of your level of income. Your income can be increasing, but your average tax rate remains the same. Regressive tax is also changes in reverse to progressive tax. Okay, regressive tax, the more income you have, the less the tax. For example, if I go in ShopRite and buy a muffin for 100 kwacha or for 10 kwacha and I'm charged 1 kwacha, or I buy something for 100 kwacha and I'm charged 20 kwacha VAT, I'm just using that as an example. To me, out of 100,000 kwacha that I get, the VAT of 20 kwacha is that minute. But a person who earns 500 kwacha, they buy the same product, they are charged the same 20 kwacha. That 20 kwacha in proportional terms becomes a huge amount on their pay. All right, it becomes a huge amount. All right, so that 20 kwacha is regressive. Okay, it's standard and does not change. It changes by the level of my income. It will be a fixed fee, but it does not change. When my income goes up, it doesn't change. All right. What are the qualities of a good tax system? A good tax system, this is general knowledge, or no, not general, but people in taxation. This is basically general, whether you're doing tax from whatever. Yes, there's a famous gentleman, okay, called Adam Smith, and he obviously came up with the canons of taxation. Later on, people had obviously added more things. All right, so canons of taxation mean qualities of a good tax system. A good tax system bears lightly, as possible on production, meaning on anyone who's producing should be charged less tax. All right, to encourage them to produce more. it should be cost effective, meaning it should be easy and cheap to collect. All right. I think you noticed how the rent, withholding tax on rent was so cumbersome to follow people to find out whether this is the landlord or not. All right. So it should be cost effective, not where it's costing more to collect than to let it go. It should be certain. So I should know when someone tells me you've made 2,000 kwacha, I should be able to easily calculate my tax. I should just say 16% or 3% of my 2,000 or less, this and that. But company taxation is a bit tricky. It becomes more cumbersome the more SIs are passed and all. So sometimes it's just a nature of our world that we can't attain 100% clarity. All right. But then there are certain things, especially for people who are lay, for example, marketeers. Remember, we had a very funny, is it the sales tax that was brought that if you earn so much and so much, pay so much, it was very cumbersome for individuals to pay or to adhere to, because they didn't know the day, whether they have to do it daily and so on and so forth. And most of these people are uneducated. All right. So there was no certainty back then. Taxes have to be certain. Like currently, it's 4% of your turnover. Clear. Everyone knows turnover, or simply 4% of your sales. You sell 100 kwacha today, what's 4%? 4 kwacha pay. That's when it ends there. All right. Equality, it should not be biased to favor any group. All right. Hence, you notice in the States, people will be saying, please tax the wealthy as well, because the people who are being taxed are the poor. All right. Later on, others obviously also talked about the fact that it must not hinder efficiency. All right, so it must not hinder efficiency. It should be compatible with other tax systems and definitely automatically adjust to rates of inflation. All right, so you should not have a tax system that stops you the whole month from working just because you need to prepare those tax returns. All right, and yes, it should be compatible with other tax systems, meaning we'll use things around the world. All right, where do we get tax law? Where do people get this tax law? Tax law is gotten from legislation that Parliament has come up with in different statutes. There's the ZRA Act, we have an Income Tax Act, we have a Property Transfer Tax Act, and we have a VAT Act. We have so many acts, but these are the major ones. And yes, there are SIs that are passed time and time again by the different ministers of finance. And so those are also considered. All right, so we also use case law. So these are cases that have been decided in the courts of law. Those also make up taxation, yes, and I talked about statutory instruments. All right. How is the Zambian tax system structured? Firstly, the Minister of Finance is in charge of mobilizing all funds for the government, all right, and it has to allocate to all various needs of the country. Now we have everything is deposited in one treasury account significantly, and then the Minister of Finance determines where these funds will go, especially in those priority areas, all right? But they have an arm that is also mandated by the government. This ZRA is also created by an act of parliament on a separate side, but it is a revenue authority. It's an agent of the Ministry of Finance. So ZRA is the revenue side. It's not the spending side. To collect money, Ministry of Finance has engaged ZRA through an act of parliament to help it with collecting those funds. Okay, so it collects those funds. It also advises the government. So ZRA has that extended role. ZRA is also guided by a Commissioner General, but its board is also guided by somebody else. So the Commissioner General is simply the CEO for ZRA, but they have other representatives on that same board. The person who runs the board is separate. It is not the Commissioner General, and definitely there are people from Zika, there are people from BOS, there are people from the Zambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm saying. So the Commissioner General is appointed by the President, and the governing body is headed by a chairperson. The Commissioner General has powers. They can ask or request for any return you've submitted at any time. Okay, they can request for your accounts and documentation to be submitted for examination. They can examine any person for the purpose of obtaining information. And yes, they can seize and they can search also for money, documents, and property at any given time. Okay, so especially when they are auditing, this is very, very common. All right, so that's basically about the Zambian tax system. Please, for more information, please follow us. For more videos, follow us on and please like our page. Our videos will be on the YouTube channel. And yes, you can follow us on Facebook as well. It's Phuka Business Academy, and on LinkedIn, Phuka Business Academy as well. And we have a page where we rent tutors for different things: kindergarten, PhD courses, MBAs, or whatever you're studying, whatever you need tuitions, and you can rent a tutor. But for physical classes mainly, we have our campus in Ndola at Provident House, where you can check us out. See you on the next day. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you.